What if a civilization as vast and as complex as our own could simply vanish? One moment, a thriving hub of culture, innovation, and power. The next, an echo, a ghost whispered on the winds of time. History is a book with missing pages, entire chapters ripped out, leaving behind riddles etched in stone and questions buried under centuries of dust. We look at our sprawling cities, our global network, our technological marvels, and we feel permanent. But are we? Tonight, we journey to the edges of the known world and into the deep past to unearth the stories of 5 incredible civilizations that reached remarkable heights before disappearing, seemingly into thin air. From meticulously planned cities abandoned for no reason to entire populations that walked away, leaving only a single cryptic clue. These are not just stories of collapse, they are humanity's greatest unsolved mysteries.
Number 5. The Indus Valley Civilization, the Silent Empire. Imagine a civilization sprawling across 1,000,000 square kilometers, an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. This was the Indus Valley or Harappan civilization, flourishing over 4,500 years ago in what is now Pakistan and northwest India, and they were masters of their world. Their cities, like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, were marvels of engineering, far ahead of their time. We're talking about meticulously planned grid-like streets, complex drainage and sewer systems that would rival some modern towns, and multi-story houses built from uniform baked bricks. They had the world's first known urban sanitation systems. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, a huge public pool, was so well constructed with layers of natural tar that it remains waterproof to this day. They were a peaceful, egalitarian society. Archaeologists have found very few weapons, and there's no evidence of a standing army, royalty, or grand temples to powerful kings. Their art depicts a people in harmony with their environment. Yet, for all their sophistication, they left us with one of history's most frustrating puzzles: their writing. The Indus script, a beautiful system of symbols found on small stone seals, remains completely undeciphered. We see images of animals, what appear to be gods, and intricate patterns, but the 400 unique symbols offer no translation. The voices of this entire civilization are silent. And then, around 1800 BCE, they began to disappear. It wasn't a sudden violent end. There are no layers of ash from a great fire, no fields of skeletons from a final battle. Instead, the cities seem to have been slowly abandoned. The meticulous urban planning faltered. Houses were built over the streets. The great civilization decayed, and its people just left. What happened? For decades, the prevailing theory was a violent invasion by Aryan tribes, but modern archaeology has largely debunked this, finding no evidence of a widespread conquest. The more likely culprit is the environment itself. The Indus people depended on the mighty Ganga-Hakra river system, which some scholars believe was the legendary Sarasvati River. Geological surveys show that this river system began to dry up, possibly due to tectonic shifts that altered its course. Without water, their agricultural heartland would turn to dust. Climate change, a gradual drying of the entire region, could have delivered the final blow, forcing a mass migration to more fertile lands, where their culture eventually diluted and dissolved into other rising societies. An empire wasn't conquered by the sword, but by thirst.
Number 4. The classic Maya, the Star Watchers of the jungle. In the dense, suffocating jungles of Central America, the Maya built an empire of the mind. For over 1,000 years, their civilization flourished, not as a single unified empire, but as a network of powerful city-states like Tikal, Palenque, and Calakmul. They were brilliant astronomers and mathematicians. They developed the concept of zero, independently of other cultures.
created calendars of staggering complexity and accuracy, and tracked the movements of the stars with an obsession that bordered on religious fervor. Their cities were architectural wonders. Towering step pyramids pierced the jungle canopy, serving as temples to their gods and tombs for their divine kings. Their art is a dizzying tapestry of human figures, supernatural beings, and a writing system so complex it was considered gibberish for centuries. But now that we can read their hieroglyphics, we can hear their stories. Tales of royal dynasties, cosmic cycles, and brutal, ritualistic warfare. The Maya were not the peaceful stargazers they were once thought to be. The city-states were locked in a near-constant state of conflict. Kings captured from rival cities were subjected to elaborate rituals of torture and sacrifice, their divine blood offered to appease the gods. This violent world existed alongside their incredible intellectual achievements. Then, starting in the late 8th century, the system began to unravel. In a period of just over 100 years, the great southern cities, the very heartland of the classic Maya civilization, were abandoned. The stone carvers stopped carving. The kings stopped building monuments. The people packed up what they could and melted back into the jungle, leaving their magnificent cities to be swallowed by vines and trees. The collapse of the Maya is one of history's most debated vanishings. There was no single cause, but likely a catastrophic domino effect. Decades of endemic warfare between the city-states would have exhausted their resources and manpower. To feed their large populations and build their monuments, they engaged in widespread deforestation, leading to soil erosion and localized drought. And it seems they were hit by climate change. Ice core and sediment data from the region point to a series of prolonged, intense droughts that struck between 800 and 1000 AD. The rain, which they so fervently prayed for, simply stopped coming. With their crops failing, their reservoirs dry, and their faith in their divine kings shattered, the social fabric tore apart. The Maya didn't disappear. Their descendants still live in the region today, but their great civilization, their world of star kings and jungle pyramids, collapsed back into itself.
Number 3. The Minoans, the lost paradise of the labyrinth. On the sun-drenched island of Crete, more than 4,000 years ago, Europe's first great civilization arose, the Minoans. Named after the mythical king Minos, they were not a warlike people. Their cities had no defensive walls. Their palaces, like the sprawling labyrinthine complex at Knossos, were not grim fortresses, but vibrant centers of art, trade, and ceremony. Their culture was breathtaking. They were masters of the sea, trading with Egypt, the Levant, and the Greek mainland. Their frescoes are electric with life, depicting elegant women in fashionable dresses, acrobats leaping over the backs of charging bulls, and a world teeming with dolphins, octopuses, and flowers. They seem to have worshipped goddesses far more than gods, and women appear to have held a prominent, powerful position in their society. They also had a written language, Linear A, which, like the Indus script, remains undeciphered. We see their records, their inventories, their rituals, but we cannot understand the words. Their world is a beautiful, silent movie. And it is a world forever entwined with the legend of the Minotaur, the monstrous half-man, half-bull, said to be imprisoned in a labyrinth built by Daedalus beneath the palace of Knossos. While the Minotaur remains a myth, the maze-like corridors of the real Knossos make it easy to see how the legend was born. For centuries, their civilization thrived. Then, around 1450 BCE, it was shattered. The palaces were destroyed, the towns burned. But by whom or what? For a long time, the culprit was thought to be the colossal volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, now Santorini. This was one of the largest eruptions in human history, a cataclysm that would have sent mega-tsunamis racing across the Aegean, burying the Minoan fleet and salting their farmlands with ash. However, the timeline doesn't quite match up.
The Thera eruption happened around 1600 BCE, over a century before the final destruction of the Minoan palaces. While the eruption undoubtedly crippled them, causing immense economic and possibly religious turmoil, it seems they survived and even rebuilt. The final blow appears to have come from human hands. After being weakened by the natural disaster, it's believed the Minoans were invaded and conquered by the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece, a more militaristic and aggressive culture. Evidence for this lies in the discovery of a new script at Knossos after the destruction, Linear B, an early form of Greek. The Minoan culture didn't vanish in a flash of fire and brimstone. It was a paradise that was weakened by nature and then lost to conquest.
Number 2. The Rapa Nui, the Society of the Stone Giants. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, 2,000 miles from the nearest continent, lies the most isolated inhabited place on Earth, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. Sometime around 1200 AD, a small group of Polynesian explorers landed their canoes on its shores, and for the next 500 years, they built one of the most enigmatic cultures imaginable. The Rapa Nui people are famous for one thing: the moai. Nearly 900 of these colossal stone statues, stylized representations of deified ancestors, dot the island's landscape. Weighing an average of 14 tons, with the largest, El Gigante, weighing a staggering 82 tons, they were carved from the volcanic tuff of the Rano-Raraku quarry. Then, somehow, the islanders transported these giants for miles across the island and erected them on stone platforms called ahu. The question that has baffled the world is, how? How did a small, isolated population with no wheels, no draft animals, and no metal tools achieve such an incredible engineering feat? Modern experiments suggest they may have walked the statues upright using a system of ropes, a process that would have required immense skill, coordination, and, most importantly, wood. Lots of it. And that is the key to their disappearance. When Polynesians first arrived, the island was covered in a lush palm forest. But by the time Europeans arrived in 1722, it was a barren, treeless grassland. The islanders had cut down every last tree. Why? The leading theory is a tragic case of self-inflicted ecological suicide, or ecocide. The obsession with building bigger and more impressive moai became a competition between rival clans. To transport the statues, they needed logs for rollers, levers, and ropes made from tree fibers. They needed to clear forest for agriculture to feed the workers. They built bigger and bigger monuments to their ancestors, and in doing so, they destroyed the very environment their descendants needed to survive. Without trees, they couldn't build seaworthy canoes for deep-sea fishing. The soil eroded, crop yields plummeted, and the island's birds went extinct. Society turned on itself. Oral traditions speak of a period of brutal tribal warfare and even cannibalism as the once proud society collapsed into chaos. By the time Europeans arrived, the statue building had long since ceased, and many moai had been violently toppled by rival clans. The Rapa Nui didn't vanish entirely, but their grand civilization, the one that raised the stone giants to watch over the island, had destroyed itself, leaving a haunting lesson for the rest of the world.
Number 1. The Roanoke Colony, the ghost word in the tree. Our final mystery is different. It's not about an ancient empire, but a small, fragile foothold of 115 men, women, and children on the shores of a new world. In 1587, they established the Roanoke Colony in what is now North Carolina, dreaming of a new life. Among them was the first English child born in the Americas, Virginia Dare. But their timing was terrible. Their governor, John White, was forced to sail back to England for fresh supplies. He intended to return within months, but the outbreak of war between England and Spain delayed him for 3 long, agonizing years. When he finally returned in 1590, on his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, he found the settlement completely deserted. There were no signs of a struggle, no bones, no bodies, no evidence of a battle. The houses and fortifications had been neatly dismantled, suggesting it wasn't a sudden departure. It was as if the entire colony had been methodically packed up. The only clues were 2 carvings. On a fence post, the word "crow," and carved into a nearby tree, the single, haunting word, Croatoan. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now Hatteras Island, and the name of a local Native American tribe that was known to be friendly. This was the prearranged signal the colonists were meant to leave if they had to move. Crucially, the signal for a departure under duress, a Maltese cross, was missing. This suggests they left voluntarily and peacefully. So what happened? John White was desperate to sail to Croatoan Island to find them, but a brewing storm and a mutinous crew forced his ship to abandon the search and return to England. He would never see his family again. The lost colony of Roanoke was never found. The theories have swirled for centuries. Did they try to sail back to England and get lost at sea? Unlikely, given the dismantled settlement. Were they attacked and wiped out by a hostile tribe? Perhaps, but the lack of physical evidence makes it improbable. The most widely accepted theory is that they simply assimilated. With their supplies dwindling, they likely moved inland and merged with a local tribe, probably the one on Croatoan Island. There is some tantalizing evidence for this. Later explorers reported seeing Native Americans with gray eyes and a familiarity with English customs and language. Recent archaeological digs on Hatteras Island have uncovered English artifacts from the right time period. It's very possible the colonists didn't vanish at all, but simply became part of a new family, their English bloodline merging with the people of the New World. Their story didn't end in horror, but in integration. From the silent cities of the Indus Valley to a single word carved in a tree, these stories remind us that nothing is permanent. Civilizations are fragile ecosystems dependent on a delicate balance of climate, resources, and social cohesion. When that balance is broken, even the mightiest empires can fade into memory. They leave us with a profound and humbling question. What clues will our civilization leave behind? And will anyone be there to find them?